Stan Gooch's first book, Total Man, was written in 1972, and he hadn't fully developed his hybrid origin theory at that point. That doesn't really get solidified until his third book, The Neanderthal Question. But in Total Man, he starts to formulate the idea of the two personalities, and in it he terms them System A and System B, and starts to play around with the idea that these two systems are sort of antagonistic towards each other, and that they are genetically fixed in populations. So people are either more System A dominant or System B dominant, and that on a large scale is what makes up societies and nations and civilizations and such, is that more people are in that society, in that nation, society or civilization, are System A dominant, or more people are System B dominant. So System A, he summarizes as psychotic, magic, and fascist. And this is a system, a personality collective that is more geared towards these tendencies. So more geared towards magic, or the manipulation of nature for one's own gain. Psychosis, the dehumanization process, or separation from humanity of yourself, so in individuality, and fascism, which would be the dominance and the will to dominate others. Or, I mean, in Total Man, I think he's using the word fascism in a much more classical sense, not in the way that it's used today, where people seem to think that fascism is anything involving the police or anything involving politicians and corporations or whatever it is, But I think that Stan Gooch had a much better grasp of fascism than most people do today, or claim they do. And the System B is summarized as religion, communism, and neurosis. So it can be seen as much more collectivist. System B is a collectivist personality type. Religion and communism might not seem like bedfellows at first, but both of them require that one removes one's individuality for the good of the group. So in order to be part of a religion or part of communism, one has to believe in the greater good, or that the people are the salvation lies in the people themselves. Of course, there are different types of religions around the world that appeal to different personality types. So personality A people are more likely to choose, say, Christianity, because Christianity places all of its hope in one person, in a single saviour, whereas other religions believe that the believers are the salvation, much like communism. And as Stan points out, communists and Christians are also really boring, which is the same as neurotic people who tell you about their problems all the time and just talk about worries and how they're feeling all the time. It becomes draining and boring, much like communists when they talk about what they're into. So System A people today could be your Trump voters, Brexit voters, nationalists, and System B dominant personalities are your Antifa, your anti-fascist types, or your Black Lives Matter types, or the Remainers, the people who want to be subsumed into some kind of EU superstate, globalists, globalism, again, belief in the mass being more important than the individual. So I think that The Total Man is well worth reading for anybody who doesn't have any insight into Stan's work at all. Considering it was written in 1972, it still is very poignant in terms of society today, and it's still a very unresearched theory, and I think that it could do with a lot more people looking into it, and just to see how many points he was actually looking at that may sort of have relevance to us today, and relevance in the last few thousand years. And a lot is explained by Stan's work, but it is very heavy going and involves a lot of reading of not only his work but the works that he talks about in order to get a full grasp. But essentially it's saying that this antagonism between these two sides, this System A and System B, is genetically fixed. And so the hope of System A ever getting System B to understand their viewpoint is nil, the same as the hope of System B ever getting System A to understand its viewpoint. It's basically futile. So the best we can hope for is that we understand that each other are different, and that we don't just genocide each other for those differences. And if we have to, that we separate ourselves off into these types and mitigate the violence and the disagreements as much as possible. Because once you understand your nature, or the nature of life, it's your duty to obey it rather than disobey it, which is what we tend to do today.